an interesting observation that we've brought to light in our recent conversations is you like drugs now.
Yeah, love them. Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
That was not always the case.
No.
I remember back in the day when you were around doing stand-up here, you were like one of the only comics that did not like to even drink. You weren't going to touch that marijuana. Yeah. Why were you like that?
Okay.
And what was your journey into becoming open to them and trying them, and where are you with it?
Okay, so growing up, I didn't have a lot of friends. But didn't have a lot, never had any really. Like I had some people I talked to at school, but for the most part, I was like weird loner kid, not by choice, just very socially anxious. And like I've been 6'4" since like freshman in high school. I was very overweight, like 250, 260, didn't carry it well. I don't carry it well now, but like back then I looked like I smelled like old ham. Like that's the best way that I could put it. I had greasy hair, these shitty, like thin glasses. And like I had anxiety around everybody, and didn't have any friends, wasn't invited to parties. Nobody was offering me anything in high school. And I think even if they did, I wouldn't have taken it because my parents were religious. I wasn't. They didn't really raise me super religious. They kind of let me figure things out on my own. And my mom says she regrets that because like, that's a weird one to hear. She's like, I don't like how you turn out. I'm like, I'm doing all right. Did drugs around my parents for the first time really recently. I can tell you about that.
Okay.
So I just grew up in a religious-ish household. My parents didn't drink or do drugs. My dad didn't drink mostly because he drove a tow truck, so you can't be drunk and on rotation, or buzzed or whatever. And I go to college, and everyone is kind of like, I just didn't have a desire to do it either. That was like another thing. Like just I wasn't interested in it. I kind of liked the idea of some of the straight edge-ish people that said I can have a good time without doing drugs. And I think that's like, it's a skill you should have. I don't think you should only be able to have a good time on drugs.
Yeah.
And I took that to college with me, and I was like getting invited to parties. People like, why don't you drink? You should drink. And I don't like being told what to do. And it's that like, it's the same reason I don't watch the shows that people recommend, where it's like, man, you gotta watch this. I'm like, that's 5 fucking seasons. And they're like, you gotta smoke, you gotta drink. What are you doing? What? And people were like mad I wasn't doing it. And I was like, well, that doesn't make me want to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like people tell me I have to do it. You should do this. You should do that. I don't like hearing that. So I was like, okay, I'm not doing any of this. Made people even madder. And it kind of just became a thing. Like you associate me with not drinking, not doing drugs, nothing. And it was that way for a while until people just kind of stopped asking about it. Or like people they started to get like more respectful of it too.
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, you don't drink? Okay, good for you. Good for you. And there's no follow-up to it. Like, you don't drink. It's because I got old enough that people, I think, would assume I had stopped. I think that was part of it.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, you don't drink? And I go, yeah, I never have. And they're like, oh, well, I don't like that.
Yeah.
That's still a little weird.
It almost feels like this societal sort of thing where it's like if you're a young person who's just not even experimenting with it and trying, the world around you is encouraged. Like, this is your time to do that.
Yeah.
This is when you're supposed to fuck around, and then you can make the decision later. So now people just assume you did that.
Yeah. Well, they see me too. I age like a fucking banana. Like it's not, like I've looked like I'm in my 40s since I was 23.
Yeah.
And it's that's another thing that kind of contributed to me doing it, because I'm like,
you don't want to accelerate aging anymore.
No, at the time I was like, so I've never really like eaten well. If I had like one major vice up until I started doing the other ones, it's like I love food. Overeat as much as possible. Not that's a bit of an exaggeration, but you know, I love Nutty Bars. I'd probably eat too many of them in a day. Got up to 260. I couldn't get any fatter. That's the only reason I wasn't any fatter. Like for some reason, no matter how much I ate, 260 was the max. Don't know what it was. So had a buddy of mine that grew some mushrooms. And he said, would you be interested in this? Never done any drugs before. I say I hadn't done any drugs. I am pretty sure when I was about 7, I was hanging out at my grandparents' house. And my sister was older than me. She's like 15, 16. They were giving her wine coolers. Because my grandparents were born in the fucking 30s. Like, alcohol is just alcohol. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just like, here, have some. You're going to have some later in life anyway. Who gives a shit? I was really confused on the difference between wine coolers and cheer wine. Thought for years that they had just given me cheer wine to shut me the fuck up. And I talked to my sister. I'm like, hey, you remember when we were like, you were drinking wine coolers with grandma and grandpa? Did they give me one? She's like, oh yeah, they absolutely did. So at 7, I had a wine cooler, which is like a little, there's some alcohol in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from then until about 23, when I did mushrooms, I didn't do anything at all. So first thing I did was mushrooms, and felt so good. Are you familiar with skanking?
No.
It's the type of dancing you do at a ska concert.
Okay.
Where you like put your arms up and kick your feet up. I don't dance.
You did that?
I'm not a dancing person.
While you were on mushrooms?
I was so fucking happy that I just like danced around the apartment, and like I wasn't sure what was going to happen, so I went to Bojangles and I got a biscuit, and I was like, man, I got to eat this before this kicks in. About the time the like laughing hits you is when I took my first big bite of the biscuit, and I almost died.
Like, because it was so good?
No, because I couldn't stop laughing while I had this fucking biscuit in my mouth. And I was so happy that the biscuit tasted so good, and I was laughing so hard. Yeah. Almost breathed in.
Oh, okay. You almost choked on the biscuit.
Yeah. So I kept doing mushrooms for a while. Not all the time, but just, intermittently every few weeks. Probably every few months. And didn't do anything else until... started smoking weed during the pandemic. So that's like 2015 to 2020.
What was that like the first time that you just decided, all right, now I'm going to give it a try? Or
so I did it with my best friend. He's also the guy that he helped me with the mushroom stuff.
Got it.
And I had done some like edibles before that.
Yeah, I remember I remember you throwing that out. Like, yeah, I'm going to take an edible. Like, before you ever smoke, what are you, nuts?
Yeah, it's because like, I feel like that didn't count. But yeah, the first time I did it, the main takeaway was I kept saying, I'm not high. I'm not high. I'm not high.
Yeah.
And then I started laughing because I was high.
Yeah.
And that's about it. And now I do it like too much.
Yeah. Are you like a daily person?
Yeah, I'm daily.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, if I need to take a break, I can. Like when I came down here, I didn't. But like, if it's there, it's there. I'll do it.
So you're not high right now?
No.
Are you uncomfortable not being high?
I'm on Vyvanse.
Are you? Are you like wishing that you were?
No, I'm having a good time.
Okay.
Yeah. What else? I feel like I had something else. Now I'm like putting it into my act a little bit. I'm like talking about it, doing mushrooms, smoking weed a little bit. And I got to tell you, that's the best way to get free weed as a comedian, is to just
talk about smoking weed.
You talk about smoking weed, and then people come up to you after the show and they're like, hey man, why don't you come out of the car? And it's been fantastic.
Yeah.
Been gifted weed at shows.
Yeah.
All this happens in Colorado, California, one of those.
Yeah, I remember it being, when I was trying to quit while continuing to do comedy, it was really hard to, one, turn down like the smoke sessions from just other comics and stuff. And then, just like when you're there, you're constantly being offered that kind of thing. And it was really easy for me to stop doing it myself with my own stash or like at my own free will in my alone time. But when it came to the social element, it took me like at least a year or two to really wrap my head around getting good at saying no to the social invite.
Yeah.